Well, hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever in the world everybody's connecting from today. Happy Monday to everybody. I'm so excited that you are all here to work with me and geek out, nerd out on things that are cool. And we are going to be doing some of that today. I got to tell you, one of the things that excites me the most about this age of AI, mean, there are many things that excite me about this age of AI. There are many things that concern me, obviously, like everybody else about this age of AI. But one of the things that has been the most exciting to me is this: that now we have the tools that give us the opportunity to build things that we have dreamed about building, whether it is for work or in our personal lives, that we didn't have the know-how to be able to build them before. I am by trade, I am a technologist. I am an electronic engineer. I spent many years of my professional life working in technology. I am not a software developer. I had to do some of that in my career, never something that I enjoyed. But over the course of the past 15 or 20 years, since I didn't, or 15 years, since I haven't been practicing engineering, there's all these dreams that have come up to my head, and things that I needed to build in the software world. And because I am not a software developer or a programmer, I was never able to build them. Yes, I could have learned how to do them, but unfortunately I didn't think I had the time available to build those things. Now with AI, a lot of those dreams, things that I wanted to build, I am able to build them because, well, I can leverage the power of AI to help me do all the things that I didn't know how to do before, or that I didn't have the time to do before. That to me is really, really exciting. So today we are going to be doing tough work. I gotta warn you all, those of you who are very allergic to technology, I think you're gonna have a lot of allergies. You're gonna be sneezing a lot this morning with what I am about to do today. So we are going to be doing a lot of technology work, which is going to be deeper technology work. None of it is coding, none of it is programming. All of it does require to have a basic level of understanding of how the technology works, the jargon that we need to use to do some things, the tools that we need to use to develop some projects. But ultimately, we don't need to be developers, but there's going to be heavy technology work that we are going to be doing today. So I am hoping that all of you bear with me. And one thing that I always do is I try to go fast to make sure that I cover as much as I can in the hour and a half, 2 hours that we have available today. But I check in on you multiple times throughout the description, the explanation of what we are going to be doing this morning. Okay, so please bear with me. Be in the computer. Turn. If you miss like 2 minutes of this, you're gonna be completely lost. So be here. It's just a couple of hours that I know will deliver great amount of value to all of you. So a few items before we formally kick off what we're going to be doing today. My name is Enrique Rubio, and I am the founder and CEO of Hacking HR. For those of you who don't know who we are a global learning community and platform for HR leaders and practitioners globally. We do multiple events, learning programs, community, and many, many activities for the HR global community. By as I mentioned before, by training and trade, I am an electronic engineer who has spent a significant amount of time of my career working in telecommunications. So if you ask me to design a cell phone network, I can do that. Um, but I switched to HR about 15 years ago, and I haven't looked back. One thing that has been really powerful for me, at least given my background, is the combination of being an engineer, having that mindset, and working in HR. That's a playground in my head that allows me to do very cool things like the ones that we are going to be doing today. Now, you don't need to be a technologist to do what we are about to do, which is the cool part of using AI. So that's a little bit about me, a little bit about Hacking HR. This bootcamp is a very short version of a longer bootcamp that we're going to be doing throughout the year. The first version coming up in June. In the website at the bottom of the screen, bootcamps.hackinghrlab.io, you can find the upcoming June full bootcamp that we're doing for an entire week, and we're going to be doing more of those same bootcamps over the course of this year. So most of them I'm going to be delivering myself, and I'm hoping that obviously you have fun and that you find a lot of value. So now a few important items, laundry list items, to just go through them very quickly. Throughout this morning, I will be fully focused on delivering what I want to deliver for you, which means that very, very likely I am not going to be able to look at the chat. Okay, I am hoping. I'm asking to all of you that you please keep this chat focused on this conversation today. If you don't, you're going to be booted out. We don't care. So keep this chat just focus on the conversation of the day. All right. So please make sure that those are the comments. My team is monitoring this. So please make sure that the comments that you're providing here are comments just about the conversation today. I am not going to be paying much attention to the chat until I start checking in on you, which I am going to be doing multiple times throughout this morning. The second thing is, yes, this video will be available to all of you in our website, which is hackinghrlab.io. There are 2 videos, by the way, of a couple of boot camps that I did. I believe it was a couple of weeks back, and this video will be available in there as well, probably by the end of the day or tomorrow. So all of this will be available to all of you. And because the video will be posted on Vimeo, then you are also going to be able to download the transcript from the video. And there should be, even though there's no closed captioning here, if you're watching on LinkedIn, there is closed captioning on LinkedIn. And if you're watching on Vimeo, there is closed captioning on Vimeo, so that you have the text of what I am saying, especially because I'm going to be saying it very quickly. So if that's that, I am excited to do what we are going to be doing today. So we're going to be geeking out or nerding out on a bunch of different things that are going to be very, very cool. So today, what I want to try to do, as much as I can, I want to build a functional people analytics dashboard for a company. So I created a company that is a fake company. It's called Meridian Analytics. This fake company, and in my jargon, I call it synthetic company. So you may hear the words synthetic data every now and then. Not only here, but outside of the scope of this program, you may hear companies that are using synthetic data to do anything that they need to do. That is just fake data, but it's not fake as crazy. It is fake as in data that doesn't belong to a real organization, but is benchmarked or is created against real benchmarks. So the company that I created, called Meridian Analytics, is a real benchmarks that helped me create this company, and it's the company that I'm going to be using for all the examples that we are going to be doing today. Now, what systems am I going to be using today? I know some of you had asked me to use Codex from ChatGPT or OpenAI. I am not going to be using Codex today, and I gotta be honest with you of why I'm not going to be using Codex today. My original plan, and this will happen, by the way, in the full boot camp, my original plan today was to do the following: to build a people analytics dashboard that I was going to build as if I was 2 developers at the same time. One developer using Claude Code directly in the Claude desktop application, and the other developer working in VS Code with Codex, also in my computer. That is possible. And it is possible because if we have a central repository of the code that we are creating, which in this case we're going to be doing in GitHub. So if I have a central repository of code, and then in my computer I have 2 local folders, one folder for Claude Code and the other folder for VS Code and Codex, then each of these systems, each of these terminals can work independent from each other, connecting with their own folders and then migrating all the code to the central repository, which is GitHub. But this weekend, literally yesterday, we were recording a session on that we were going to do on Claude Code, and my computer kept crashing and crashing and crashing and crashing, and there was no way for me to make it work. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be as sophisticated as I was planning to do with these two quote unquote developers, but me connected to two separate folders, still me in my computer, connected to one central repository of data. I'm going to be using only VS Code and Claude Code until I am able to figure out why my computer keeps crashing every time that I'm using any of these systems. So we're going to build a people analytics dashboard for Meridian Analytics. So now, how am I going to be building this people analytics dashboard? It is going to happen as follows. This is what we're going to be doing today. And we're going to be doing as much of it as we can today. You know, we only have a limited amount of time. So the first thing that I'm going to do, which I am about to show you in just a few minutes, is I'm going to create a central repository of the code in a platform called GitHub. For those of you who don't know GitHub, what GitHub resolved for, the solution that it provided was that when there are multiple developers working simultaneously on the same project, on the same main code of a project, before GitHub came to exist, which was, I don't know, maybe like 10 or 15 years ago, there was no central repository of the code where they could take all the little pieces of the code that they were creating and pushing them up to that central repository of information. That didn't exist before, but now it does. So if you are working with other people to do the people analytics dashboard for your company, then it's better if you have a central repository of code and not just the code in your local computer. So even though today I'm the only one doing this work and I don't have the two quote unquote developers in me, but the two separate developers in my computer, I'm going to have only one. I will still connect this to GitHub to have a central repository of information. So I'm going to have GitHub. I'm going to have a central repository of information. In my computer, I'm going to create a local folder where I'm going to be hosting all the code that I am creating in my computer in that local folder. And then I'm going to connect VS Code with that local folder. So everything that I will do will always be in my local folder until I do something that is called push the code up to GitHub from my local folder. Don't be afraid. I know this sounds like, my gosh, what is this guy going to do and why am I here in the first place? I told you it's going to get a little technical, but that is okay because we're going to be doing it real time. I'm just explaining what we are going to do. So we have GitHub, central repository of my code. I'm going to have a local folder in my computer where all my local code will be hosted in my own computer, and I am connecting VS Code to my local folder and to GitHub, obviously. So it's going to be connected to both things. So over the course of the next hour and a half or so, I'm going to be adding more concepts to what we're talking about. I'm going to be sharing concepts such as commit, pull, push, create a pull request. Don't worry about those things right now. We're going to be talking about all of those things. So that's what we're going to do for the code. Now, I want this to be hosted somewhere, and I want to have a database. So I want to have a web hosting service, and I want to have a database service. There are a million of this, by the way. So you can do whatever you want with the systems that you use. I'm going to be using two systems that I have already worked with in the past. One is called Render, and Render will allow me to host my dashboard and my web page for the dashboard. So I'm going to use Render for that. But the second thing that I want to do is I also want to create a database. And there are multiple reasons why I want to create a database. So reason number one is because I want to have a system of login so that not everybody can look at my dashboard. Only selected people can look at my dashboard. And those selected people have to exist somewhere in the back end so that the system knows who to let in and who to just prevent from coming in the dashboard. Number one. Number two, because I have real data from my company, in this case, the fake synthetic company called Meridian Analytics, I need to add the data from that company somewhere. So there has to be a database where that data can go. And that is going to be another platform called Supabase. You can do this. There's Vercel. There is there is Amazon Web Services, which is what we actually use in Hacking HR. So there are many systems that you can use for this, but for the purpose of this webinar today, this bootcamp today, I'm going to be using Render and Supabase. So I have introduced 4 systems now, or actually 5. 1, GitHub as the repository of data. 2, VS Code powered by Claude Code in VS Code, which is what I'm going to use to create all the code that I need. Number 3, I'm going to use Render. I'm going to use Supabase, Render for the hosting of the web, Supabase for the database, and the system that I'm not going to be using will be ChatGPT Codex, which I plan to do, but I won't be using it today. All right, that's what we're going to do. So, but the first thing that we then are going to create will be the following, and this is going to be very, very important for you. I'm going to share my screen with you in 1 second. And again, please remember that I'm not looking so much at the chat right now, and I know there's a bunch of stuff in there, but I'm going to share my screen in 1 second, and this is what we're going to do on the screen. We're going to be creating something that is going to be very important. Whenever you are working on any real deep work using AI, especially the kind of work that you want to be collaborating with somebody else to create that something. So say that you're developing the people analytics dashboard, but also imagine that you're developing you're creating your dreamed app. I don't know, whatever it is that you wanted to do. You want an app that tells your partner, your spouse, who has to do groceries that week. I always use that very silly example. If you wanted to build an app like that and you want to build it with your spouse, then you have to have a baseline of understanding of how the app will be created. And that baseline of understanding generally goes in a document called Product Requirement Document, PRD. So we're going to be creating a PRD document for all that we are about to do. And you may ask me, why are we not jumping directly on AI to start coding away and doing things right now? That would be a very valid question to ask, but one that only after you have gone through some iterations in the process, you would find out that maybe you are not really understanding what is happening with your code. The code is all over the place. There are no rules for collaboration with with the other developers working in your team. So the way we resolve that is having one document that creates understanding across the board. So I'm going to share my screen, and I'm literally going to create. I'm not going to write it myself, by the way. I'm going to create a PRD document in my computer. I'm going to use AI to do so. So you can always use AI to create a PRD document for you. Now, to create a PRD document, you have to have the foundation, what it is that you're going to do, what it is that you're going to create, etc. I already have all of that so that I didn't waste time doing that right now. But I'm going to create the PRD document, and I'm going to do it in front of you. And then we're going to go into the deep, harder tech work, okay? So let me just share my screen with you. All right, I think you should all be able to see my screen right now. There it is. All right, people. I am getting ready. Are you all ready to get this going now? Are you all ready to do the hard work here and stop me, from just blah-blahing about something else and just going into it? Say a yes or a no in the chat, and then I'll know that everybody's ready. Give me a yes or a no, and then we just jump right into this. Beautiful. All right. Well, I'm hoping that all of you who are here, you are saying yes to all of this. Yes, vamos. All right, I'm going to create my PRD document. So I'm going to describe it very briefly. And by the way, I have gotten a little lazy when I'm asking ChatGPT or Claude to do things for me. So I just describe them verbally. In this case, I want to just type it out, just to go a little slower. So I'm going to say, I am going to be, I hope you can all see my screen, by the way. I am going to be creating a people analytics dashboard for my company, Meridian Analytics. That is the name of the company. I mean, no pun intended, people analytics dashboard, and the name of the company is Meridian Analytics. I need to create the PRD document for my team and I to work on this project simultaneously. All right, I'm going to share with you the the original, I'm going to call it, I have another document, the original document that I created to create this dashboard, to design this dashboard. I'm going to show you the document in 1 second to design this dashboard. And I'm going to share all the information about Meridian Analytics. I need you to help me create the first version of the PRD. All right. So let me tell you what I'm going to share with. I'm using ChatGPT right now to do this. So this document that you see here in my screen, this document, this is my internal document, by the way. This document doesn't. I can share it with you if you want, by the way. If you want to get access to this, but I created this to guide me. So I have it in my other screen here. I created this document to guide me on all that I'm going to be trying to do today. So because I already created this document, I don't want to spend time explaining to ChatGPT what it is that I want to do. It is all in this document. So I'm going to share this document with ChatGPT. Okay. So for you, if you're starting from scratch, you do need to create a document like this describing. So imagine you being interviewed by somebody asking you in a podcast, asking you to describe the whole thing that you want to build. Well, I want to build a dashboard, and I want the dashboard to talk to me, and I want the dashboard to be in color blue, and I want the dashboard to, send the Slack messages to my boss and send me emails every time that there's new information to look at. Every dream that you have about what you want your dashboard to look like and to do, that's what you're going to be creating in your PRD. So I'm going to be creating the PRD right now, but I also did some of this work in advance to not have to waste any time with it. So it looks like this. I'm going to share this document. Oops, I closed the document, and I shouldn't have closed the document. I know you're all looking at me at my screen right now. So let me open my document again. So I have my document, and I'm going to share my document with ChatGPT. So I'm going to come to ChatGPT, and I'm going to grab my document that I just showed you. We're not going to go too much into details about this. Just imagine, trust me, that the document that I'm presenting right now is the document that describes everything that I want to do in this dashboard. So there it is. It is my document, and I'm going to go next to Meridian Analytics. Okay, and I'm going to zip it because there are too many files in here. So you can actually zip a file, and you can share it with Claude or ChatGPT. So I'm going to be zipping my file, not zipping. I'm going to be zipping my file. There it is, zipped. I'm going to share it with ChatGPT. All right, I'm ready to create my PRD. Boom. I'm going to do one enter in here. And I am going to be doing something else in the meantime. By the way, I told you at the very beginning of this session that we're going to get really techy today. But I also want to tell you something else, because I have very limited amount of time. We're going to go all in what we shouldn't be doing, which is the real multitasking. So what I mean by that is, while I wait for ChatGPT to do what it is doing right now, I'm going to have to do something else just for the sake of time. All right. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go to GitHub, and you can see my screen right now. You go to GitHub. If you don't have an account, you can create an account. I have my own account, and I have one account for me and one account for my company, Hacking HR. So I'm going to be creating a repository. It's called, generally, if you want to be fancy, you call it repo. That's how developers call it. You create a repo in GitHub, and once you create that repo is what becomes your central source of the truth. So anything that is delivered to the outer world has to come first through GitHub, and then it is delivered to the outer world. All right, so I'm going to create my repository, and you will see why this matters in 1 second. So if you see, I have the URL. I have the URL for my repo. So I'm going to copy this URL, and let me see how my PRD is going. My PRD is still being created. So I'm going to go to the other technology that I told you that I was going to use. It's called VS Code. VS Code is just Visual Studio Code. So that's what VS Code means. VS Code is it doesn't have any AI power on its own. As far as I know, I think they are developing their own LLM, by the way, if they didn't already, but I haven't used it myself. So what VS Code allows me to do is it allows me to bring Claude Code or Codex and do all the work that I would normally do with Codex or that I would normally do with Claude Code directly, but to do it inside the VS Code terminal. I like it better for multiple reasons. And I know somebody told me this weekend, I prefer to work with Claude Code in the Claude desktop directly and not with VS Code, because the VS Code being all dark and with a black background and all of that, it feels like more sophisticated than it actually is. Well, I like to work with VS Code, so you can decide. Ultimately, what I'm going to be doing in VS Code powered by Claude Code would be the exact same thing that I would be doing in Claude Code directly, quote unquote, seemingly. I prefer to do it here in the VS Code terminal. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to I created. If you see here, I have a folder that I call development, and inside my folder that I call development, I added a folder called Meridian Analytics Dashboard. Do you all remember that about 10 minutes ago I told you GitHub is the source of the code, the source of truth? All the code that will become publicly available is in GitHub, and it is only from GitHub that it goes out to the world in the form of an application. So it's GitHub, but locally in my computer, I have to have a folder. So I already created a folder, and I'm calling it Meridian Analytics Dashboard. All right. So So in VS Code, you can go to VS Code, and you see here it says File. You say open. You say Open Folder, and you can open the folder that you created locally in your computer, which I already did because you can see it in here, Meridian Analytics Dashboard. So the first thing that I'm going to say to Claude Code is, what I'm about to do, you should do it when the PRD is ready, but I'm going to do it in parallel right now. Please connect to this repo. Okay, and here's the address. You can see my screen. You're going to have to bear with me here because there's no way, I already tried it before, there's no way to make the screen bigger. So it's going to be very small for a lot of you. And, that may be, I know, complicated to see. So hear my words, because my words are saying what I am doing in VS Code, okay? So I'm telling VS Code in the chat, it is a terminal. In VS Code, it is a Claude Code terminal. I am telling Claude Code inside VS Code, which is connected to my folder, I am saying, please connect to this repo. So all I'm trying to do is do the following. I'm telling VS Code in my local computer, I'm telling it, we are operating in this local folder, but everything that happens in this local folder has to be connected to the repo in GitHub. In the past, to do this, you needed to add the code yourself, but I don't need to add the code anymore. I'm not a developer, so I just need to know what it is that I need to do. So I'm telling it right now. So I'm going to wait for, VS Code and Claude Code are going to be asking you a bunch of different questions all the time, to the point that it gets a little annoying every now and then. So one thing that happens very often is that you can't get distracted if you're doing this work, because if it's asking you a question, a permission to do something, and you don't accept the permission, then it won't do what it's supposed to do, and you're going to be wasting time, right? So it's doing something right now. It's connecting my local folder with GitHub. All right. See, it's starting to ask me some questions, and these questions are pretty much the permission to write documentation inside the local folder that you have. That's pretty much what it's doing. It is asking you permission to create files. It is asking you permission to write on files, etc. All right. It's already connected. Did you see my screen? Well, you probably don't see it. Yeah, I cannot make this bigger. I wish I could. Let me see. I have never looked, by the way, if there's a way to make it bigger. Let me see view. Sorry, I'm just doing. I don't want to screw up the way it shows right now. By the way. So there's a zoom in. Oh, there it is. Let me see another zoom in here. Where was it before? All right, so there's a zoom in. Let me see. Oh, well, it seems to be doing a little better in there. I think you can all see now. So it's telling me that I already connected to the GitHub. The GitHub is currently empty. That's okay, because we already created an open. We just created a repo, a repository of code, and there's nothing there. All right, I'm gonna stop. So I already did the first thing that I need to do that I wanted you to be able to do in this program. I wanted you to be able to, number one, create a repository of code so that you can collaborate with other people, especially if you're doing this for your company and you need IT to come in between. IT won't let you do this on your own. It will need to see all the code, and the only way for them to do so is getting access to that source of information, which would be Claude Code. GitHub. So I created GitHub. I created my local folder. I connected my local folder with GitHub. Great. Let me see how my PRD is going. Let me look at my PRD. Blah, blah, blah. Here's my PRD. I'm going to download it. And again, the way you want to do this is you want to read it. You know, you don't want to create a PRD and not read it. But I won't be reading it too much because I don't have the time to do that in the next hour and a half. So I'm going to have to trust, but I'm going to have to trust that ChatGPT created the proper PRD. But I want to show you high level, a few documentation, a few parts of the PRD. An executive summary of what we're going to do, product vision and decision value, business context, all of this, it is taken from the company, the fake company that I created. The users, the personas and jobs, version 1, what we want the version 2, what we don't want in version 1, source of data, all of this, information architecture, etc. There's going to be one section here somewhere. Great. Let me see 1 second. I'm creating this real time with you, by the way. So I want to show you one part that is critical for what you are about to do. This part here, and I don't know if my friend Ernesto, who is one of the smartest guys in the universe, I don't know if he's here, but I have been used to, creating my programs and my projects and just naming them whatever. And we're working on a project together, and he said to me, no, you're not doing that with me. You are going to have a naming convention for every migration of the database that you need to do. A migration of the database is the following. If we create a database right now, so imagine this. So just imagine this for 1 second. You create a database that only has 3 columns in the database. The first name of the person that will get access to the dashboard, the email of the person that will get access to the dashboard, and a password that they need to set up to get access to the dashboard. So you create a database that only has 3 columns. So now, imagine if tomorrow you now need the last name of the person, not just the first name, but you need the last name. So you need to add another column. When you do that, you are creating a migration of the database. So the database is changing. So when you create a migration, you have to create a second document of the database, and that document has to have a naming convention. In the past, for me, that was whatever. For him, it is like no. So his convention, which I am using here, you have it here. The convention is you add the year, the month, the day, the hour, and the minute in which that migration was created. And then you can have a very, very good documentation of everything that has changed. So of all the things that I was concerned about in my PRD, I just wanted to look at the data migration governance, and I'm satisfied by that. So I'm going to close my document, and this is what I'm going to do. Pay attention to the following. I'm going to take what is my document? I'm going to take my Meridian Analytics. Let me just copy it. I'm going to be going through a few folders in here. I'm going to paste it in my folder where I'm keeping track of all the documents that I'm creating for this bootcamp. But I'm going to take that PRD. This is what I'm going to do. Look at this. I'm going to go to my PRD, and I'm going to go to the folder that I connected to VS Code, and I'm going to paste the PRD in there. And now I'm going to go to VS Code, and I'm going to tell VS Code the following. Please read the PRD document in the local folder so that you understand how we will be developing this entire project. Okay, so let's see what it does. Is everybody following me? I told you this was going to get a little tricky, but is everybody following me here? Please, I know I go fast. I know it's okay if you're lost. You go back to this. I know it's getting complicated, and I said at the beginning we're gonna go hard on the technology part of this. All right. So you can go back to this and look at the video again, and literally you can do 2 things, and I do them all the time. When I don't know how to do something, guess what I do? Guess what I do when I need to do something that I don't know how to do? Does anybody want to take a guess on what I do when I want to do something that I don't know how to do it? Take a guess. I just put it in the chat. Take a guess. I want to do something, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to do this thing, but I don't know how to do it. Guess what is the first thing that I do? I ask AI. That is the first thing that I do. I tell AI, I want to create this thing and I have no clue how to create it. Guide me step by step. So yes, you can go back to my video, but now that you know what's possible, you don't even, I mean, like, yes, I would love for you to come back to my video and join all my programs, but you don't have to. And you don't have to simply because, well, you can just go to AI and ask AI to create the step-by-step process exactly in the way you want it. But maybe you want to hear me and my voice again in the next as you are working through this. So all these questions that it is asking me, again, it is asking me to get access to the document, it is asking me permission to read the document, etc. So let's let it work. All right, so now we're just setting up the foundations. That's all we're doing. There is one more foundation that I need to set up, and then we're gonna get to work. Actually, we've been working so far. But right now, we are pretty much, if I show you again my document, remember the document that I told you about, my developer guide that I wanted to follow for this for this bootcamp. Here are all the parts that I wanted to do, and I'm hoping that I have time to do all of them. I don't think I'm gonna have the time to do all of them, but in my first parts, pretty much what I'm doing is setting up the foundation. All right, so we're not even creating the dashboard yet. We're setting up the foundation to do this. Okay, so let me go back to, see, I told you, don't get distracted from VS Code, because then it asks you questions, and if you don't say yes, then it won't do them. Okay, while VS Code is doing what it is doing, I want to tell you something else that you have to do. This is very important for any project that you are working on, because you're going to be using API keys, meaning you're going to be using secret keys that will connect to systems that are your systems. You don't want those keys to be floating out in the ether, right? You want those keys to be very well protected. And when I say that you want those keys to be very well protected, I mean as protected as having them in your computer only and not in GitHub. I'm going to repeat what I just said. There are some keys, some API keys. There are some secret keys that will give the systems that you're working on access to, say, Claude for you, or Supabase or Render, that you don't want to be sharing in the ether. You want them to be only in your computer. And what I'm about to say is very funny. I said before that the source of truth for the code is always GitHub, but you don't need to share in GitHub the secret keys that you are using. So now, what are we going to do? This is what you do. You create a local file inside the folder that you are working from, and you tell VS Code or Claude Code or Codex, you tell it, create a local file where I am going to be adding all the keys that I need, but do not send that file to GitHub. Keep it always in the local folder. And I'm going to tell it right now. I'm going to wait for this to be done, and then I'm going to say create that file. So once I'm done with that, then I will have set up the foundation of everything. So here it is. Again, forgive me, please, that I'm not going to be reading what it is confirming. You have to. I have already done this a million times to know that very often, except for maybe like 1% of what it is telling me, all of it generally is exactly what I want to do. So I'm not going to be doing much right now with the reading and confirming of this, but I'm going to be just setting up the process in here. So what I just said looks like the following. So you look at my screen, and I'm going to say, inside the local folder, create, and the name of the file it will be called like this: create an env.local. That's what it's called, env.local, meaning a file that contains all of your keys locally in your computer. So inside the local folder, create an env.local where I can add all the API keys that we will need for this project. Make sure that you don't commit. Commit is saving local code, the lines of code in your computer. So I don't want to save those API keys in the code. I want to keep them in the file itself. Make sure that you don't commit or push. Push means taking my code and sending it to GitHub. Please make sure that you don't commit or push mlocal. All right. So what it is going to do, it is going to ask me permission to create this file in my computer, blah, blah, blah. And it's going to be like a TXT, like a text file. Now that I have already set this up, now we're going to start working on the dashboard. Okay. Is everybody following me, by the way? Yes, it's going to be a recording. All right. It is asking me permission to create the file. It is telling it to, git ignore is do not send this to GitHub. When you commit and push code, do not send this file. All right, and then it's going to create it. So if you see here, this on the left side, I have my Meridian Analytics dashboard local folder, which I created to do all of this locally in my computer. And there it is. It created the mlocal file. So let me just wait for it to finish. And now we're going to be working. We're going to be working on creating the actual dashboard. Okay, there it is. Boom. Eventually, I have to add Supabase API. I have to add render API, render website hosting, and Supabase database. But I'm not going to do that right now. So I'm going to go to my local folder. Here it is, my local folder that I created in my computer. I don't know if you remember, but it was empty before. Now it's not empty anymore. Now I have the PRD. You have the instruction to ignore the mlocal file, and it has the mlocal file, which I'm going to open, and it should not have anything inside. Yeah, it doesn't have anything inside. I mean, it has the instructions, but it doesn't have any keys inside because I'm not using any keys right now. All right. With this in mind, pretty much what I just did was I have just set up the quote unquote, let's call it 10% of the foundation. So we are in pretty good shape now to start working on creating the dashboard. So I'm going to say the following, because I already created the PRD, and in the PRD, I have all the documentation of what the version number 1 of the dashboard should look like. So all I have to do, and I can share the document with you so that you read what it is that I wanted version 1 to look like. But what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to tell VS Code, actually, I'm going to do the following. Forgive me, please. I need to add another level of complexity here. You're going to have to forgive me. Can you all look at my screen? And you see on the bottom left of my screen, do you see where it says main? All right. When you see main, that means that we're working on the main code, branching code in GitHub. Because I am the only quote unquote developer working in this project. Generally, it's okay if you're doing this directly on main. But if you're working in VS Code or Codex or Claude Code, and especially if you want to follow the most common conventions of coding, and more especially if you are collaborating with other people, you do not want to do that in main. You want to do that in a separate branch off of main. So now, sorry, I know that I'm adding a little level of complexity here. So what I need to do now is I need to tell VS Code to take all that we just did and send it to GitHub, because I don't want to lose this code. I'm going to take all of what we just did and I'm going to send it to GitHub. And then I'm going to create another branch of the code. And when I create another branch of the code, then I'm going to be starting the process of creating the dashboard. I know this is complicated, and I told you, especially if you have never done this, this is like, what the hell is this guy talking about? It's okay. You don't need to understand everything right now. Just know what the process is. And then you get into it. So I'm going to say the following. I'm still on my VS Code, and I'm going to tell VS Code, commit this. Commit means take all that we just did and code it locally in my local folder. Commit this and create. And I'm going to introduce a new concept. It's called pull request, and create the pull request. The pull request, what it does is it tells GitHub somebody created code. That person sent the code to GitHub, and it's asking you to embed that code in the main source of code for this platform, for this in this case, this dashboard. All right. So the pull request will always be approved by the owner of the repo in GitHub, which is in this case, me, right? But when I'm working with somebody else and I create a pull request, they receive a request and they can review if the code is okay and there are no conflicts with pre-existing code. So I'm gonna do this. I'm hoping that you're all following here. I know it's a lot. No, I can't go full screen because then it's not, it is right now in full screen. Let me just see if I can close this one here. See, it's the same size. Let me just see if I can do another zooming here. I hope you can see a little bit better, right? I know it's small. Is everybody following me? I know I'm just like, while VS Code is doing what it is doing, I want to repeat a little bit of what I just did. So I set up the foundation. What is the foundation? Well, first of all, I have a company that I am working on to create this dashboard. Your company is whatever company you want to work on. I needed to create a fake company, and that fake company in my case is Meridian Analytics. So for Meridian Analytics, I created all the documentation. I have lots of documents of this fake company, Meridian Analytics. And then I set up the foundation. And the foundation includes creating a repo in GitHub, creating a local folder in my computer, and creating the PRD so that everybody who's working on this project follows the same rules. Can you imagine if you're working with somebody else and your PRD didn't include the data migration governance and the nomenclature on what to name each database migration? If you don't have that, then you can name it whatever you want, and the other developer can name it whatever they want, and then there's no source of understanding of this. So I created my GitHub repository. I created my local folder in my computer. I connected VS Code with the local folder and the repo in GitHub. I created the PRD. I took the PRD and I put it in the local folder, and I told VS Code, read this PRD so that you follow all the conventions of everything that we want to do in this project. And the last thing that I'm doing in this first phase is telling VS Code, take all that we just did and create the PR. So if you see here, it's done. It created PR number 1, pull request number 1. So we are completely new in this. Not new in this, I'm sorry. What I meant to say is we're completely new in this project. So I'm going to go to my GitHub real quick, which is somewhere. Here it is. And I'm going to go to pull requests. And here's my first pull request. So if you see here, open now by Enrique Rubio, which is me. I'm going to open the pull request. And there should not be any conflict with anything because there was no code of anything before. So if you see here, it says ready to merge. I'm going to click ready to merge pull request, confirm merge. Right now, there are no conflicts at all about anything. Okay, so it's merged. So if I invite you, any of you, to look, but I won't. But if I invited any of you to look at my repo, right now, you will get access to all this coding and all this information that is in here. So this information is the same thing that is in my computer right now that I created a pull request to have in GitHub. So if I invite any of you to work in parallel, in collaboration with me on this, then I will give you access to the same repo. So we both work locally in our folders. Then we create the pull request to send that code to GitHub, and the owner of GitHub looks at the code, makes sure that there are no conflicts, and once that's happened, then it creates the merge. So I'm going to go back to VS Code. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to open another chat because I'm going to start a completely separate thing. So I'm going to say the following: create a new branch called, I'm going to call it dashboard. I'm actually going to say something. I'm going to say create a new branch of main called dashboard v1. Okay, remember what I told you. You don't want to work in the main branch. You want to work off of the main branch, but in a separate branch. Because if you're working on the main branch and somebody else is also working on the main branch, the likelihood of sending that to GitHub and creating conflicts in the code is higher than if you're doing that in separate branch. Eventually, we're going to be merging all of that with main, but at least for now, we don't want to do that. All right, now we're going to start coding or creating our dashboard. We have just set up the foundation, okay? We have just set up the foundation. And I'm gonna checking on you in just give me like about 5 or 10 minutes to check in on you. Okay, perfect. Do you see the bottom of my screen? I know you gotta get real close to the computer, so get really close. And you see down here, it says dashboard V1. Do you remember that before it said main and now it says dashboard V1? That is perfect. So I created a new branch where I'm going to be creating new code, and then I'm going to send it to GitHub. And in GitHub, the owner will see the code and will say there are no conflicts in here. So let me merge this to the main branch, to the main code. All right. That's why you want to work off. Of main branch, but on a separate branch. Okay. Now let's start working on the dashboard. I have just set up the foundation, so I'm ready to start. So I'm going to tell VS Code this. I am only able to say to VS Code, create the first version of the dashboard only because I already described all of this in the PRD. If I didn't have a PRD, what do you think I would be doing here? I don't know. The answer is I don't know what I would be doing here if I didn't have this this PRD document that we created, the product requirement document that we created at the beginning. All right, so I am going to tell VS Code, please start creating, you don't have to say please, by the way, but hey, we're human. Please start creating version 1 of the dashboard as indicated in the PRD. All right, in the PRD, I said version number 1 will do, let me just open it for you. 1 second. I'm going to open the PRD again. Oops. Where's my folder? I know I have it somewhere. My goodness, where did my Meridian Analytics? Here it is. Here's my my PRD. So my PRD in version number 1. Let me just make it a little bigger. Actually, the PRD calls it version 0.1. In my 0.1 version of my PRD, I'm going to scroll down. So this is what I want in version 0.1: an executive overview with company context, synthetic data label, etc. Workforce composition, headcount by function, department, location, etc. Attrition and retention, engagement, and all of this information. This is what I want in version number 1. And remember, the only reason why I can do this is because I created a fake company where I added all of this information in advance. If you don't have all of this information in advance, so imagine that you're creating your dashboard and you don't have the headcount by function in the source files, then how are you going to be asking your dashboard to create a headcount by function if you don't have that data in the back end, right? In your original source of data. All right, so I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna do one more thing, by the way. Well, let me just wait for this to start asking me questions, because now it's going to start asking me a million questions because I'm asking it to start doing the actual work right now. I'm gonna do the following. I mentioned to you I have a folder with a zip file, Meridian Analytics. This folder in here, it has all the information, the fake information from Meridian Analytics. So if I'm gonna open this and let me show you just something, right? This is all fake data, but let me just show you this. Employee master. You should have this, by the way. So here I have my employee master from my fake company. I created all of this using AI, by the way. So here you have all the names of the people, their date of birth, their gender, their ethnicity, their veteran status, their disability status, the hire date, everything is created in here. So I'm going to take this folder, not that I have to, because eventually I want to connect this to a database. But for now, at least for this original version, version number 1, I'm going to take this folder and I'm going to paste it inside the local folder that a VS Code is reading, so that we can do a few more things later. Okay. Document context is crucial. All right. While this is doing this, so right now I really don't have much to do. Well, I do, but I don't want to get into some other work stream. I'm going to let this work stream finalize. I want to see if anybody has any questions. So if you have any questions, the time to post it in the chat is pretty much right now. Because otherwise I'm not going to be looking at the chat for after this. Any questions, anybody? Please post it in the chat if you have a question right now. Yes, I created many documents, but it's okay. You don't have to know which documents they are. These are the documents that you would have in your own company. Recommended. How should I handle data while the backend isn't ready? I'm gonna say so. It's asking me questions. These are very interesting questions. So it's asking me because I'm creating a mock-up dashboard right now. It is asking me if I want to build with mockup data or swap to Supabase later. I'm going to use that. Actually, no, let me just say other, and I'm going to say in the local. Oops, I don't know what just happened. Sorry. And I'm going to say here in the local folder for this project, I uploaded all the data from Meridian Analytics. Let's use that data for now until we connect to Supabase. Pretty much what it's telling me is, hey, Enrique, you want me to build a dashboard? What data do I use for the dashboard? Do I use mockup data that I make up myself? Do you want to connect to Supabase and start all the way with the database or any other? And I am saying, we will connect, with Supabase later. For now, use the data that is in the folder that I added in the local project folder. Okay, so let me zoom in my answers. All right. Any questions, anybody? Enrique, in the fake data, can you share the file format you're using when you send out the recording? If I'm understanding that correctly, the file format is pretty much Excel and Word documents. You could use CSV files, but right now AI understands both of them really well. So you can use CSV, you can use Excel. Yeah, we shared that before. So you actually, if you joined late, you will be a little lost. Yes, I shared all of this at the very beginning. If it's fictional company, we can get it without any issues. Like, you mean like get it from me? If you mean get it from me, yeah, I can make it available to all of you. I mean, Meridian, and I don't, by the way, I hope that there's no company called Meridian Analytics. But if there's a company called Meridian Analytics anywhere in the world, this is not them. This is a fake company called Meridian Analytics. So yes, I can share all of that with you so that you know all the data that I'm using. Can you go back to the PRD document and get through the whole thing really quickly? Yeah, of course, I can do that. So, this is my guide. This is my internal guide. So I built this to know what I wanted to do today. I can share this with you, but this is something that you are not supposed to see, because it's a thing that I wanted to do. But the PRD, here it is. So you go, not all PRDs would look the same. All right, but you want to have a minimum of what you wanna do, right? So this is version number 1. So there's an executive summary. There's a product vision and decision value. Now you may ask me like, but how did ChatGPT know what was the product vision? Well, because I created that already in my original document. That is my guide here. When you do this on your own, you have to do this pretty much from scratch. Okay, product vision and decision value, business and organizational context. So all of this information is coming from actual Meridian Analytics, okay? The fake company that I created. User personas and jobs to be done. All of this explained in here. Version number 1, out of version number 2. Out of version number 1. Source data inventory and source of truth decisions. Information architecture and navigation. Functional requirements. Non-functional requirements, metric requirements and definition. We're not going to stop in any of this, obviously. Initial data models and tables. Predictive risk logic, transparency and responsible use. User stories and acceptance criteria. Technical architecture, development workflow branching. Database migration governance, front-end requirements, and visual direction. Let me just show you one thing here, by the way. Look at this. Look at this first. I want to show you something first. Let me just show you. I'm going to open my Meridian Analytics folder, the folder where I have all of this from Meridian Analytics. And I want to show you something real quick. I created a visual of the dashboard that I wanted to do. So let me just show you this very quick. This is not, we're not building it exactly like this. So you look at this dashboard and it has a bunch of stuff in there. By the way, this is not a dashboard. This is just an HTML that I created with the purpose of showing sort of like the direction in which I'm going. It has a bunch of information in there. So I'm going to go back to my PRD. And in my PRD, the first line says, use a top KPI row with 6 to 8 high priority cards. So instead of having something that looks like this with a million cards, I'm saying in the PRD, the high level overview of the dashboard that I'm creating will only have 6 to 8 high priority cards. That is already included in my PRD. Now, if when I see it, I don't like it, then I can create a different request and I can change the PRD as well, okay? So let me see what else is here. Backend analytics, testing and quality assurance. This is for the bootcamp demo, and version 0.1 success criteria, etc. So I'm gonna share all of this with you. All right, I'm gonna go back to my VS Code because I told you, see, I'm getting distracted and then I can't get this thing going in here. All right, I'm gonna go back to your questions. Trying to copy also this chat to your Word document. Yes, unfortunately, the chat is not downloadable in StreamYard, which sucks for me too, by the way, because your questions always inform what I do later. I guess I'm trying to understand how to put a document like this together. I recommend that you go back to the beginning of the conversation. I did explain a little bit of that. You use AI you don't put that document together on your own. In the past we did. Those of us who ever worked in technology, we needed to do that manually, right? And that was a lot of work. Now you can use it with AI, and if you want to know, a trick on how to do these things, especially if you do them for the first time, go to AI. I'm gonna actually, if you don't mind, I'm gonna go to my ChatGPT 1 second that I was using before. I'm gonna go to ChatGPT. I was using it before. See what I'm going to do. Oops, it took a little. Okay, it is loading. Commands crashes, and I'm hoping it doesn't. If you see me nodding here for a second, don't go away. I'll be back in a couple of minutes. Okay, it's been happening. I think I'm putting a lot of my poor computer. Okay, so I'm gonna go here. This is something that I can recommend you doing. Let me tell you in 1 second what it is. Create. Imagine that I'm beginning from scratch. I want to design a people analytics dashboard for my company using VS Code and Claude Code. I am not a developer, but I heard this guy at a boot camp, that's me, saying that is a good idea. It's a good idea to create a PRD for all of us working on this project to have some baseline. I don't know how to create a PRD. Can you please ask me all the questions that you need to know about this project in order to create the PRD for me? Okay, so let's see what it does. I have no clue what it's going to do, but I bet it's going to do something that will be guiding for you. So a PRD, as I mentioned before, product requirement document. So you need to know the project purpose and business context. So here's asking you some questions. Users and audience, who's going to be using this? Core dashboard goals. It's going to data sources, data fields and metrics, key metrics and calculations, etc. So it's going to be asking you all of these questions. So again, like I mentioned before, if you don't know, you go and ask AI. All right, let me go back. See, I want to go back here because this is the thing that I want to have ready for you. Hey, folks, if you're losing the connection, that's on your end. It's not on mine. I'm sorry. I can't resolve for your connection. I hope that it works, but hey, you're going to have to make it work on your end or just watch the recorded video. We have only 2 hours to do a free boot camp. And yeah, I'm sure that some of you will have to go back to this. Yeah. All right, let's just wait. I'm waiting here for this to do what it needs to do. Yeah, I mean, like, it's not just for it's just I mean, like, I'm accounting for everything that I know you're going to need, to be able to do a lot of these things, right? All right, come on, VS Code. I want to have my first version of my first dashboard created for you. So again, all of these questions that the system is asking you, or is asking me in this case, are just permissions to create folders, structures, code in the local folder. That is all that it is doing. And if you see on the left hand, I am still pretty well, I'm still on my dashboard branch, so pretty good. How do you protect employee information from them being in the AI ethers? You connect it to your database. So right now, obviously, this is a fake company, meaning I don't mind so much about what happens with it. But you send that database information to you connect your system to a database via an API key, and it is in your database, wherever you're hosting the database, where you are going to have the employee information. You don't do what I just did in here, by the way. You never do that. You never take all your company data and put it in a folder and say to the AI, read this information. You don't want it to do that. But it's fake information. The way you would want to do it is twofold, either or one fold out of two ways. Either you tell the system when you're using it, create the fake data for a mock-up that I can show to my team, or let me connect you via API with my database, which will be protected by the API itself, right? By the permissions that you're giving your AI system through that API. In this case, I did it only because I know that I'm using fake data from a fake company. All right, let's see what else. Any other questions, anybody? I'm still waiting here for this thing to be done. So there's not much that I can do, and I don't want to open any other work stream right now because I know you're trying to follow this one. Yeah, don't upload data on a public platform, and certainly do not upload data, personal data, proprietary data, protected data in like Claude or ChatGPT. That you don't want to do that. Now, do you want to know a little secret that I share every now and then about how to do this? Um, if you want to work with something that looks like your company but it's not your company, then you can create your own synthetic company. I went to ChatGPT and I said, I am going to do a bootcamp, and the bootcamp is going to be to create a dashboard and a people analytics dashboard. These are the things that I want to do. I need to create a synthetic company to be able to do that. Help me create a synthetic company. So the first question was, okay, tell me the name of the company and tell me the industry. Okay, it's Meridian Analytics. It's a software company on people analytics on business analytics for the manufacturing sector. Okay, then I asked the question, okay, how many? See how cool this is. It's updating. It created its own plan and it's updating all the plan as it goes. So then I said to ChatGPT, all right, it's Meridian Analytics. It's a a data analytics, business analytics platform for manufacturing companies. And then I asked ChatGPT, how many people, how many employees do companies like this have? Well, they have about 1,000. Okay, create a company with 1,000 people and add all the employee data that any HRIS system would normally have. So all that I just showed you. And I created all of this doing, as a synthetic fake company. So now the message to you is, if you want to work this and set it up in a way that looks kind of like your company, but not exactly with your company data, create a synthetic company that looks about your own company. So not exactly the same, but has a similar description and meaning and content, and use it to test out your system until you have to present it to whoever you have to present it to. All right. Oh yeah, I can share the screen of the dashboard that I just shared before. It's not going to look like this, by the way, because this is just this was like an original version of what I was thinking that I wanted to build. The one that I'm trying to build right now is, at least in the first view, the CEO overview has a lot less information than this one. So, but we're going to be building something that looks similar but not the same. Okay, similar but not the same. This nothing here is functional, by the way, so I cannot touch anything. This is just an HTML that I created to show you what it could look like. The one that I'm creating with VS Code will be a little bit more functional, but it's still leveraging the data that I have in my computer. It's not connected to a database. All right, let's just wait for it to be ready. Any other questions, anybody that you have? Any question? I know this is complicated, but hey, if you want easy, then I don't know, you go to LinkedIn and there's a bunch of people posting, a lot of silly things on on prompting and stuff like that I don't think will move the needle forward. Hey, I am a technologist who works in HR, who I'm a heavy LinkedIn user, and I'm seeing the dumbing down of the complexity behind AI sometimes. Yes, you can build real. You don't even need to have a tool like this. You could have done this without a PRD. You could have done this without GitHub. But then I would be, half baking this thing. And I wanted you to have a bigger picture of what is possible. Okay. So yeah, we're gonna get there. Any other questions, anybody? This thing is building. I'm hoping that it builds. See, it's asking me a bunch of questions, and all of these questions are, if you see here, give me permission to write a component, give me permission to write another component. I know it's annoying, and in Claude Code allows you to decrease the level of security that you use, but I don't want to do that. So yeah, you need a little bit more security here. Please, questions, anybody? I know for those of you who are, super paying attention to this, and remember, the purpose of the bootcamp today was to build an actual dashboard. But what I am doing right now, the process that I just followed of creating a repo in GitHub, creating a local folder, the nomenclature that we're using, like, branches and main, and committing the code and pushing the code and creating a pull request and creating a PRD. This is something that I believe if any of you here wants to build anything using AI, you need everything that I just said, no matter what it is, whether it is a people analytics dashboard or an app in your phone just for you to keep track of how much coffee you have at home. I don't know. If you need to do this in the proper way, all that I just described is the process that you would normally follow. How do you think about permissions when designing a dashboard? Oh, very good question. So when you're designing a dashboard, right now, my dashboard, and I don't know if we're going to have the time to do it today, should be connected to a hosting service where the dashboard becomes public to anybody who would use it, and a database. And in the database, you can select who gets access to it. So it can be, you can have a predefined list of users, or you can say users only with these domains in their emails, or things of the kind. So that's how you manage the permissions, okay? VS Code is just a visual representation of the code that Claude or ChatGPT Codex would be creating. You don't have to use VS Code. You can do what I am doing right now directly in Claude Code or directly in Codex. You don't need to use VS Code. I like to use VS Code. I feel, I don't know. First of all, I think it's a lot simpler. The view, it's a lot heavier in the it's a lot less heavy in the computer. So it's just a visual tool that allows you to create code with these other tools like Claude Code and Codex. Okay, you don't need to use it. You can just use the local version of Claude desktop in your computer and open Claude Code and work on it, or you can use Codex. And actually, you can even do this directly in the web-based version of Claude Code. I have never done it, by the way. I don't use the web version for this because I cannot write in local files in my computer, so I don't use it. All right, so that's what VS Code is. All right, any other questions? We're almost done with the first version. We're almost done with the first version. I know you're all dizzy and probably like, it's yeah, at least for me, it's almost lunchtime here in Pacific time zone. So maybe you are like, oh my gosh, why did I sign up to this thing in the first place? But I'm hoping, I know we only have 2 hours. So, I'm doing my next boot camp. That is a full developed, full-fledged boot camp. You have the website at the bottom of the screen. And obviously it's 5 days, 2 hours per day. So I'm going to be doing something similar to this, but not necessarily with a dashboard. And I'm going to be going a lot slower than I have been going on today. But hey, we have limited amount of time, and I wanted you to know what's possible and what we can build. Do I connect Render and Supabase to Claude? No, you don't. What you do is in Render, you create an API key, which I can do right now, by the way. I wasn't planning to do that if I didn't have the time. But I'm going to do the following. I'm going to go to Render. Render is the hosting service. Okay. I'm going to show you something, but I'm not going to show you something too. So I'm not going to show you my key, but I'm going to show you where you do it. So you create an account in Render. You go to your dashboard in Render. Remember, Render is a hosting service. You do need a hosting service if you want this dashboard to be public. And when I say public, I mean by other people that are not you. So you go to Render, you create your account, you go to your account settings, and you can create an API key. Okay, and I'm going to create an API key right now, but I cannot do it in front of you. Okay, so I'm going to create an API key. So you cannot see my screen right now. Yep. I'm going to create an API key, and I'm going to use it. I'm going to call it sample. No, sorry, I'm going to call it dashboard v1. You're not seeing my screen right now, by the way, which is totally fine. I'm going to create an API key. So then this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to my local folder where I connected VS Code. I'm going to open my my local file with my passwords. And if you see, let me see, do I have Render? Okay, Render is not here. All right. So I'm gonna remove this from your view, and I'm gonna add Render in there. Sorry, I cannot do this with you looking. Okay, let me call it Render. All right, you're not seeing this, Render API. So an API allows the system that I'm developing to connect with Render to have a hosting service. You would do the same thing with, if you were doing this with Supabase, which would be your database, you would be doing the exact same thing, okay? So my local file already includes the API key from Render. So I'm gonna go back to VS Code. I'm not going to say anything yet, but at some point I'm gonna tell it, update the connect with Render. You can find the API key in the env local file. I have not, I don't know if Claude can manage databases, by the way, but 10 megas doesn't give you anything. So that means don't use it if that's all they give you. I'm not sure because I have not used Claude for databases. I'm sure that they will at some point because, hey, why pay another system if you can have it all within Claude? But I have never used it, so I don't know, and I'm not even sure that this is exactly the way it is. So you have to have a separate database. And a separate database would be, I don't know what your company uses, by the way. So you may want to go first to your company and ask them, what database will we using here? Amazon Web Services, Supabase, Vercel, whatever you use. Can we set up the database and host it in Claude? No, you can't. Do I connect Render and Supabase to Claude via connectors? No, you don't. You just connect it in the env local. Remember what I said before, you don't want these API keys to be floating around. So you want to have them in your local computer. So you create the env, that local file, and it is in there where you add all of your API keys. All right. My thing is still working here. I need to show you this because obviously this is the most important core part of the presentation. You don't need an API for GitHub. For GitHub, all you need is the repo URL, and you need to be logged in GitHub, which I am in here. So in VS Code, I am logged in GitHub. Otherwise, if you have the URL but you're not logged in the repo, your GitHub account, then this thing will not know, right? Or it won't give you access. Any other questions while this thing is ready? It's almost getting there. We have to wait, people. I know we are all impatient to see something here, but we gotta wait. See, it's asking me all these questions, just to create components, CSS are styling components. So now it's asking me about how it's going to look. So we're almost there. I know it's getting to the end because now it's working on design. I think you're all curious to see what it produces, right? Well, me too, by the way. Whenever I do a program like this, I design all the documentation that I just showed you. I design all the documentation in advance, but then I think, what is it that I want to do real time without me testing that in advance, so that if I am surprised by anything, we're all surprised together and we resolve it together. So what I'm doing right now, creating the dashboard from scratch, I'm doing it for the first time together with you. So I know that I have my PRD with all the documentation of everything that I want to create, but I don't know how it's going to look when it's ready. So let's see. All right. Now it's about to be ready. It's about to be ready. Thank you, everybody, for being patient. You do need to connect GitHub to Claude, yes, locally if you're using Claude Code in the desktop version and not in VS Code. So yes, you do need to do that. But the way you connect with GitHub is, I can't remember. It's in the connectors, and I believe it is with your email and your password. So it's an authentication. So when you click on connect the connector, it takes you to GitHub. You enter your credentials in GitHub, and GitHub sends the signal back to Claude that you are logged in. So yes, I don't know. I don't think you can do it. Actually, I don't know if you can do it in the web-based Claude application. You have to do it in the Claude desktop application if you want to use Claude Code. And if you're using VS Code, you obviously have to do it as well. All right, everybody. We're almost there. Sorry, my friend, I can't repeat the things that we mentioned at the beginning. You're going to have to watch the video again from the beginning. I think that's the best way to go forward with this. I think that's going to give you a full understanding of everything. I mean, you can still, obviously, I suggest that you still stay with us, but yeah, you're going to have to do it, watch the video again. Maybe a silly question, but most of our employee data lives in various locations. Would you say that the first step before creating dashboards, consolidating your data? Yes and no. You can actually, if you don't have a dashboard, you can design it in a way that rates all the data and brings it all together. You don't even need to do that consolidation yourself. You can create a dashboard that connects. I'm going to imagine that, right now, most HRIS systems have an API. So you can connect via API with your HRIS system, with your compensation system, with your learning platform via API, and bring all that data to your dashboard. So in that case, your AIM local folder will then have a API key to render, API key to Supabase, but API to your HRIS system, API to your compensation platform if you have a separate compensation platform, etc. So yes, it's not a silly question. It's a very good question. All right, come on. I know we're all getting desperate to see something in here, right? Have you all learned something new today, as complicated as it may have been? Have you all learned something that you didn't know about AI before? A yes or a no, or maybe. Anybody? Did you all learn something new? Awesome. And again, remember, we didn't do this thinking, and one thing that I did today, and that wasn't even because I was thinking much about the complexity of it. It's just because my computer was crashing. Otherwise, I would be doing, my original plan was to work on separate things at the same time from my own computer. So while I was building the dashboard in the second quote unquote developer, my plan was to be doing more backend integration and all of that, and then sending all that code to GitHub. Obviously, because my computer kept crashing, I couldn't do that. So I'm glad that I didn't. I just wanted to make sure that y'all were at least with this, that you were able to sort of like follow some of the things that I'm saying. All right, everybody, this is the spelunking now. Spelunking now. We're gonna be getting there in 1 second. It's musing. You got all these funny words from Claude. It's frolicking. It's creating our the first version of our dashboard, and I think we're almost there now. One thing, I'm gonna do two things, and two more things here. I'm going to create a local preview version of the dashboard in my computer. So remember the following, because this is not connected to any hosting service yet, so I cannot create a separate link to share with anybody. So any test that I do on this will have to be in my local computer, okay? So I'm gonna do that in just 1 second. When this is ready, it's almost ready, by the way. And I'm gonna do it in an incognito tab, just in case there is some previous things from previous work. Okay, it's almost done. All right, so let me see. I'm gonna copy this link. Let me see what it created. I'm very curious. I hope you all are too. Okay, let's see. Again, this is all created locally in the computer. So, all right. Version number 1. This is all real, quote unquote, real data from Meridian Analytics. But remember, I did it in the wrong way, or in the way that you shouldn't do it. I took the data and I put it in the local folder. Ideally, I am doing this connected to a database where my data is secured. But I don't think we're gonna have the time to do today to connect Supabase in here and to create all the connections, the connection points between Supabase and the platform that I'm creating, or the render hosting service. This is real. So I know, because I created Meridian Analytics from scratch, I know that there are 820 active employees. So I don't know exactly about all this data, but it's all created in here. Let me see my workforce composition by department. Oh, it's not showing it right now. Attrition and retention, engagement and culture. I created engagement service results too, by the way. Recruitment and hiring, compensation and rewards. All of this is coming, by the way, from the fake data that I created. My performance and talent dashboard, manager effectiveness, predictive risk. All of this in the formulas that I added in the back end, which are beyond the purpose of this conversation. Here's the methodology, but it's added in here. So I have the first version of my program, of my dashboard. Function, let me see, HR. Oh, I didn't add HR. Okay, let me see department, I'm sorry. Let me see departments, let me see data analytics. Oops, see, it's not letting me. Do you see here that I cannot close this thing like by clicking outside? You can tell Claude to fix that. Okay, but I'm gonna fix it myself right now. I'm gonna say just data analytics. And let me see engineering. Okay, I don't have anybody actually in those two. Let me see all here. And I have in the department data analytics, I have 25 people. So I have my working version of my people analytics dashboard from the data that I created, all in Claude. I want to go back to Claude. Right now, I can say anything that we want, but in my PRD, I didn't create a version number 2. Now, I can make changes, by the way. So if I don't like these colors, I can say, I'm going to say something silly, all right? something very silly to Claude Code. Can you add in the dashboard to have a dark and light version? This is something very silly, something that doesn't change at all the dashboard itself, right? But now you can start making improvements. So I shouldn't make these improvements in this branch. My dashboard is already working and functional. So I should take all the code that was worked out by Claude right now in this branch dashboard v1. I should send it to GitHub. All right, but I'm not going to do it right now. I'm going to do this last change, then I'm going to show it to you, and then I'm going to do I'm going to send the request to GitHub, and then we're going to wrap it up with that. Okay. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time. Any questions? Let me just see if anybody has any other questions. Quick question. We will be able to run this dashboard real time, or you can run this dashboard real time. I can't do it right now because I'm connecting only with data that exists in my computer, not in a database. But if once you do this end to end, connecting it with a database, not only will you be able to run real time data analytics scenarios, but you can do a lot more things. You can set it up so that it refreshes every 24 hours or every hour. You can create presentations of the data that is in there. You can do, right now, for my version number 2, I can do whatever I want. I just wanted to show you a working version first. Doesn't it look cool though? I mean, we create, right now it is not connected to any database. It is not connected to any hosting service. Those things are very easy to do. You just go to render, you go to Supabase, you create your API keys, you put them in your env local file, you tell Claude, read the env local file and create the connections with render and Supabase. And now that you have a database, you can start using that database to add your data in there and not in the local folder. I mean, obviously, I don't have that much time to do that right now. How would you create a presentation of the data in the dashboard? That's a very good question. And you can just train your dashboard to do so. You can say, I'm going to make it up right now because I didn't plan for that to be version 1. You can say version number 2 of the PRD. Version number 2 is a report from the data. So there's a button that is called, you can literally say this, there's a button that will be called create report. When you click on the button create report, the first thing that the button asks you is what data, what charts you want to include in the report. And then it allows you to select all the charts and all the data available. And then you can say something like, every report will have, the data points by category in each page of the report. You can train it to do like that. And then once I'm not going to do it right now because it's going to take a long time to do that. But once you have done that, then you just make your new code live, and that's it. I know it sounds very simple. I mean, it's not as simple as I'm making it sound, but it's almost as simple as I'm making it sound. Just create version number 2 of your PRD. Go back to AI, go back to ChatGPT, tell ChatGPT, this is version 1, it's working well. Now I want to start working on version number 2 of my PRD, and version number 2 will include, reports. Then you make the reports happen. And if you see on the left hand, there's nothing about migrations of the database because I don't have any database connected yet. But once you have the database migrations connected, then here it's going to say database and it's going to show all the migrations. But I don't have any database created yet because I haven't connected this to Supabase. All right. Let's just give it a second to see. The last change that I applied is very simple. It's just a change to say, have a dark and light color scheme, for the dashboard. But hey, very simple. So if we do this, I mean, I'm doing it, explaining it all to you, right? But if I wasn't explaining this to you, something like this may take, say, an hour to do. That first version that I just did, add another hour to do all the backend connectivity, to render, to Supabase, to anything else that you want to ask it. Add another hour to create PRD number 2 to have the report. So and then have another hour to connect to your own internal systems, through IT, obviously. Don't overpass or bypass IT in this. So in 3 hours or 4 hours, you can have a working version of a dashboard. And that to me is just so freaking amazing, because I bet that you would have to spend just for hours reading the contract that you would have to sign with a company that is offering you people analytics services. So you can build it exactly the way you want it, exactly for where you want it. And you don't have to do it alone, by the way. You can have other people helping you out in this process too. Ideally, IT helping you think through this thing. But here you go. Here you go. Having something that is workable, that is practical, and in only literally an hour worth of work. All right, I just want to show this one last thing, and then I'm going to let you all go. Has this been helpful to all of you? Did you all find? Did you find some new ideas, new stuff, new things that you can develop on your own as you are working on whatever it is that you're working on? It doesn't have to be a dashboard. You can be developing whatever you want to develop. Has this been helpful to all of you? Well, I'm hoping so. You're all very quiet today. I'm going to imagine that it's very, I know it's been a lot of stuff. All right. Let's just wait a second to see what it does. It's almost ready. There are, Carlos, there are platforms right now that they actually have to pay for them to create synthetic data. Now, the reason why you want to pay a company to create synthetic data for you is because they have enough real data to be able to create synthetic data. And that synthetic data that they create is not only created by the LLM, meaning the AI tool, it is created by the LLM together with context data that they had from other real cases before. But if you're doing something that is low harm, then you can create synthetic data using AI directly, to do some level of research, etc. So, or to inform what your research could look like at the end of the day. So yes, you can do that. For those of you who, very likely, if you work in a company that is, rightfully so, would have, some guardrails on how they use data. If you want to build a version of this to go to your boss and say, look what I did in 4 hours, and you don't have to use your own company data. You can say, I created a synthetic company with fake data, with benchmarking behind it, but with fake data, and look at the dashboard that I created. I need you to give me a little bit of money to pay for, the max version of Claude or VS Code, to continue doing this work. If you want to show that level of, sophistication, so to speak. Who should be reaching out to? I'm not sure to what, but if it's for the synthetic data, you have to do a little bit of Google. The guy, the former CHRO from Google, Laszlo Bock, he had a company that did that. I don't know if he still has it, by the way, but yeah, I wouldn't use JavaScript. I would use Next.js. That's probably the most modern common language, that you can use in Claude and all these different platforms. You can use Java definitely. And most, more than the language itself, you don't have to code on your own. Claude Code can do, or Codex can do the code for you. All right, come on. I just want to show. This is just to change the freaking color, by the way, in the thing. Again, the good thing about having two computers working on this, which I didn't have today, would have been that I could have been doing two things at the same time, but I'm glad I didn't. I know it's almost done. Let me see, by the way, I don't think it has updated my, oh, there it is. It updated something. If you see here on the right side of my screen, it says dark. Oh, it hasn't updated yet, totally. It just added the button in there, in there. All right. Let me do a quick refresh. I mean, obviously it's not done yet, so that's why it's not working over there. That was a very tiny example that I just did of things that you can change now using Claude Code in your dashboard. And you can do, like, somebody asked me before, about creating the reports. You can have a section out here called reports. You describe what you want to have in reports in PRD number 2, and then you make it work. Okay, let me see how far we are from here. I want to make sure that you're um, get back on your way soon. All right, come on. Cloud Code takes a little bit of time sometimes to do things. Any last questions, anybody? Since we're getting to the ending here, I'm hoping that you join us for the boot camp, where I'm going to be doing this a lot slower because I'm going to have 5 days to do it. Yeah, it's going to take more time because I know it's going screen by screen, creating the dark mode and the light mode. I thought that was going to be such a silly example, and it seems that it's taking a lot more time than I thought it was going to take. All right, everybody, I'm just going to stop sharing my screen right now, and maybe take one more second here to answer any questions that you may have. Anybody, any last questions that you may have before I let you all go? I'm hoping that this was helpful, not because of the value in itself of developing a dashboard for people analytics, but because what you now are capable of building on your own. And to build something on your own, you do have to have some basic level of understanding of how this works, but you don't have to be a developer. You can do this by asking AI to guide you through the process on how to do this. All right, everybody, any last question before I let you all go? I'm hoping that this was helpful. All right, anybody else? Anything else that you all want to say before I let you all go? Well, all right, everyone. I'm hoping that this was helpful. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I know we left some minutes on the table, but hey, I just showed you, the fundamentals of what is possible, and hopefully you can do it to build anything that you have thought about or dreamt about building. That now you know that you can build it without being a software developer and without having to know all the step-by-step process, by just asking the right questions to AI or digging deeper whenever you need to dig deeper to know more about what you can do with AI. So other than that, everybody, thank you so much for joining me. And I hope to see you in my full boot camp that starts in June, and in the multiple other activities that we do in Hacking HR for AI and many other things. Thank you so much, everybody. You all have a great week ahead, and I will see you soon. Thank you.